New expedition cycle is here. We have Earth, Light, and Ice. There's actually a pretty big change this time, which is Infinite Circuit. With Ignore 15%, we can start doing some better team comps, because before you would like adjust for better debuff consistency. Nobody cares about that anymore. Your debuffs are as consistent as they get, kind of. Except for the case of like Brieg dual attacking and proccing his S1 Fighting Spirit a little bit early, but for the most part, they are about as consistent as they can get. So let's just swap some team comps around, and should generally improve the damage on your runs either way. As usual, I recommend using your sweeps on whatever one you find the most annoying. That used to be Light for me. I don't know what it'll be this time. I might toss them into Ice. So let's go ahead and take a look at Earth first. One big change is that I think if you have the Ignore 15% Imprint Circuit, Cecilia is useless now. All Cecilia did was give us a second source of debuffs, but we don't need that anymore. We have like 100% debuff consistency, who cares? So we will be using Charlotte instead. She's just here as a DPS that will not die. She has her damage reduction, really nice to tank. Besides that, Freerin, if you have her, also works fine here, because she doesn't take any damage thanks to her passive. So she'll just sit there, eat all the damage, contribute like a decent bit of damage as well. And then, besides Charlotte, you could probably get away with using like Lilius or something. She's just gonna dual attack with people occasionally. S3 should be okay. We're gonna use Charlotte for fun. For your healer slot, I think if you're using Charlotte, you kind of don't even really need Kana, so you don't feel pressure to build her or anything. You're probably gonna be fine with Mascot Hazel. Give yourself greater attack buff. Some free attack to everybody, and yeah, it'll be okay. Because before we had Cecilia as like a non-DPS, and now we just, like, you can get away with having another non-DPS now that we have Charlotte in the front. Mercedes, standard, everybody has her, everybody should be using her. Last slot, Ball. So Ball versus Tenebria is a little bit of a debate, but Ball is better. This is just because the way their debuffs work, all of Ball's debuffs are on his S3. So your Edicas can sometimes proc in really weird ways where you end up skipping an S2. It goes 3, 2, 3, 1, 3. And you'll notice that that second S2 just disappeared. Your Edicas has to like, I think it has to like miss, and then proc or something like that. I wrote it out somewhere, but that's bad for Tenebria because her speed debuff is on her S2, so that is not fantastic. Of course, you don't like, you'll probably kill anyways with Tenebria, even with her issues. So if you already have her built, don't bother building Ball, I think, unless you want to like invest the resources. If you really don't want to invest the resources, just use Tenebria. I think it's like probably fine, but she is worse. Let's go ahead and take a look at everybody's stats. Here is Charlotte. I have her on some random counter Torrent gear with Elbrus. Besides Elbrus, you could give her like a damage one. I just think Elbrus is kind of funny because this boss does AoE a lot, and I don't really have anybody use this on anyways. So yeah, just counter Torrent. Do give her a little bit of bulk. She's never at risk of dying. It's just because the way Kana's healing works, where it's just Bloodstone healing, you probably don't want to be taking that much damage anyways. And of course she auto-crits, so you don't need any crit chance. Okay, there we go. So Kana, standard Kana build, just speed and then crit with Bloodstone. Her EE, I went with this one. You could go for the unable to be buffed one if you want. And then I did give her a little bit of effectiveness because she gets, I think it's like 50 free effectiveness from her S2. But the boss has 100 F-Res, and if we're ignoring F-Res, we want to be at 100. So I got her up to 50, 85 crit chance, good bit of speed, and a good bit of damage. Oh god, I need to restart my client. It's getting kind of laggy. So Mercedes, standard Mercedes is like spare gear, speed, crit. You can go Destro, you can go Torrent, it's whatever. Just give her a bit of speed, some damage, 85 crit chance. I use her personal artifact just because who else is holding this? You can give her any damage boosting artifact and it works okay. And then we have Ball. So Ball, I made him a little bit faster than usual just to get the debuffs in. But 100 effectiveness, 85 crit chance, you might as well go DPS stats. Like, if you don't feel like giving him DPS, just make sure you have speed and 100 effectiveness. Make sure you have the E that makes his S3 100% debuff chance. I have an imprint circuit as well. And then we have Etika Scepter. If you do not have the imprint circuit to ignore 15%, then you're going to want to put, what's her face, Cecilia in the front instead for better debuff consistency. Let me restart my game, then we can take a look. Notably, run Charlotte's skills off. This is kind of funny interaction because her S3 Death Pen's the highest defense unit. When the boss is Death Broken, it has less defense than the Crystal. So you want her skills off. Her S3 is going to do like 0 damage.
이거까지 쓰면 대장한테 혼날 텐데. 그래도 뭐 할 수 없지. 타겟은 저기야. 추락해버리렴.
훌륭하십니다.
균열 너머로 허무의 지저까지. 논논이 등장할 차례네. 멋지게 마무리해줄게.
아가씨, 준비되셨나요? 하찮은 거.
부족했나?
뼈는 모래로.
피는 만지러. 블레이저. 헷. 예?
이 시간에도 다른 원정대들은 밥.
Now let's take a look at a different one. We're going to move on to Light. For Light, we have Fenris, or Sermia, or Fene, whoever you really want to use. Camilla plus Brieg. I've gone over this one in depth, I think. There are some other videos I've done for this, but since like Carmine Rose or Verdant add in here, I personally use Cerise. You're going to want to put your ignore 15% nodes on probably Brieg, Cerise, and you could do Camilla. Her S1 Death Break is still 50% anyways, but more deep Death Break consistency can be nice, especially given that Brieg tends to grief his Fighting Spirit with dual attacks. I don't think I have Camilla in mind. It's just because we're already eating up like 4 slots. Could take Kana out too, I guess, but we'll leave her off just in case you want to use some more slots. But yeah, this is a pretty standard setup. This is one of the more explored ones, so I'll just leave it at that. Brieg, make sure you get up to 50 effectiveness now. 30 is no longer the break point, or was it 35? It's 50 now, because you want to fully hit 100%. Where is it? Here. 50. You get 50% here, plus this gets you up to 100. It's because the boss is 100 F-res, and we're ignoring the 15%, so we actually want to cover it. Besides that, I just have him on Speed Pen Gear with Steadfast Gatekeeper. The boss does do quite a bit of damage. Next up, let's take a look at Camilla. Camilla, I have her on Speed Pen Gear with just any damage boosting artifact. I think works okay. She does need a little bit more effectiveness actually, but do I feel like putting this on her right now? Not really. Aim to have a little bit more effectiveness, I guess. Do we have a gem? This doesn't cover it. Whatever, it'll be fine. 100 effectiveness is what you're aiming for. And then we have Cerise, who I also need to re-gear. Give me a second. Okay, now we have Cerise. You want 100 of effectiveness, just like everybody else. It's more... Camilla I skipped because it's just like, whatever. It matters a lot more for Cerise because she opens with her speed debuff and that'll affect your tuning and stuff. So besides that, make her decently fast. I gave her kind of like just a bit of everything. You do still want some damage to lifesteal back up, and then a bit of bulk to not just instantly die to stuff. We're using Song of Stars because the target adds a lot of damage. This actually, with consistent speed debuffs, I should probably look at tunings to use the invincibility timing better to like tank attacks and stuff. That'll be something I'd look at later, because if you can block an S1 pop with the invincibility, it saves like so much HP for her, but it'll be fine. Let's take a look at Fenris, just standard DPS gear. Let's give him an actual artifact. Does he have enough HP? I'm wondering if this is a bit too squishy, but we'll see what happens. I think generally you probably want him a little bit tankier. We can get around this by just giving him flag. I don't really use more. I think you probably want like a little bit more HP on him just to be safe. That'll be something I fix later.
어쩔 수 없군요. 꽤 아플 거예요.
정령왕 힘은 주제 모르는 자의 자만에 가슴을
Oh, one thing, of course, for Camilla is the boss S3 strips you, so you do want her, like, cooldown slash cycling to be set up so that she doesn't use her S2 like right before the boss uses S3. Having consistent speed debuffs will help with that a ton. That timing on the unbuffable was really, really awkward. I should give my Fenris a bit more speed, maybe.
어리석은 탐욕을 위해 해풀잡이
몰아붙여라. 이쪽인가? 이러고 싶진 않았지만 처리하는 수밖에요.
진심을 다해야 이겠지.
이 작은 화살 끝이 저게 뚫을 때까지.
I'm just watching this and trying to think. I think with the consistent debuff RNG, we probably do opt for something like Zealot Carmine Rose over Cerise. I might start switching my team, but it's going to be very sad to retire Cerise whenever I do. Target does help a lot with damage, though. Basically, I think the target basically makes her like a DPS by herself, just of how much damage the target adds.
어리석은 탐욕을 위해 해풀잡이
기회다. 알았다고. 마지막 공발까지 포기하지 않을 거야.
미안하지만 질 생각은 없습니다.
몰아붙여라.
때가 되었다. 진격
제가 맞죠?
주제 모르는 자의 자만에 가슴을
이쪽입니다. 도움을
걱정 마라.
So there you can see, Camilla's like just about to take her turn so we don't get stripped or anything.
마라. 내가 지켜줄 테니 전진해라.
도와주세요.
내가 있다.
무의미한 타락을 거듭할 수 네 가치는 사라질 뿐이다.
빈틈이다. 이쪽인가?
어쩔 수 없군요. 꽤 아플
This is the
거예요.
S1 block that I was talking about. We get invincibility here, and then the AoE additional damage gets blocked by the invincible. Cerise with like her heavy gear requirements, you really want to ideally block at least one of those.
해풀잡이
이만 포기하시죠.
몰아붙여라. 알았다고. 이 일격에 내 의지를 쏟아붓겠어.
도움을
이쪽인가?
도와주세요.
다음 공격을 준비해라. 허점 투성. 마지막 한 발까지. 포기하지 않을 거야.
이러고 싶진 않았지만 처리하는 수밖에요.
정령왕의 힘은 무의미한 타락을 거듭할 수 없다. 네 가치는 사라질 뿐이다.
기회다. 알았다고.
어리숙하군요. 도움을
어설픈 주제 모르는 자의 자만은 가슴을
That is light for you. Boss didn't even get its second S3 off. The consistency added by the ignore 15% is just super, super nice. Last up is Ice. Where is my Ice poster? Over here. So for Ice, standard Brieg, Tama, Fenris, and either Inos or Loka here works fine. There's not really too much to replace here. It's just a DPS option. Fenris, Fene works fine. It's what I expect a lot of people will be using. You could use like Sid if you really wanted to, but mainly it comes down to Fenris, Fene. For Brieg, just like everywhere else, you want 50 effectiveness, and then just, you know, usual bruiser stats, 85 crit chance because he has perception, and then we're just going to give him steadfast gatekeeper. This is assuming you have imprint circuit. If you don't, then only 35 is needed. So Tama, people, you can use Warfare on her if you really want. I kind of like don't really. I didn't feel like putting in like the energy to or like effort to look for a Warfare set for her. I don't think it really matters too much. You don't really need the effectiveness these days. So we use the effectiveness for Dark Expedition, but because of stuff like having better, more consistent strips and whatnot, you can probably drop the effectiveness. If you're going Warfare, just look for speed, F-res, and some HP. Nagarro's Tome is always nice for cycling. I think one of the places that benefits from Warfare the most is especially Ice, to be honest, because you'd be able to instantly push up your DPS and get them out of the fatigue a lot faster. So your last support slot, we have Inos here. Inos is here to help cycle the fatigue because of her CR push from S2, and then also her speed buff. Like I mentioned, Warfare Tama does help with that a lot, so that could be something like if you don't need that cycling, you could drop Inos for like a second DPS or more debuffs, that sort of thing. But we're using Inos with Sacred Tree Branch for even more CR push, and this actually gives me a lot of effectiveness, and I probably don't need this much, but this will work out fine. And yeah, just speed. I'd like 200 F-res on her, and then some effectiveness. I don't have her in the imprint circuit either. Lastly is Fenris, just, you know, DPS gear. You don't need Rage. I'm running out of Destro gear, so we are going Rage, because yeah. There's too much Destro units these days. Here especially, if you had Warfare Tama, pretty much like Inos plus Tama, instantly come out would be very, very nice. For other expeditions, we only really use Tama at Dark these days, right? It's Dark and Ice. The Warfare on Dark doesn't really do that much. It does force push all of your units past the boss immediately, which is honestly not fantastic because of the fact that the boss doesn't take a turn immediately. It would be a lot easier if it did. So it does cleanse off all of your debuffs, and you would waste your debuff and stuff. A lot of people are set up for slow Brieg or something, which I personally do not like, but that would like make the slow Brieg useless. But yeah, it would be very, very nice here. Anyways, that's pretty much the end. We've covered every expedition. We can just, for all the expeditions in rotation, what other expeditions are there? Fire doesn't matter. Fire is just Fene plus Brieg. We've seen Brieg twice already. Put him in imprint circuit. That pretty much works fine. And I mean, that's basically a 2-man. And then the last one, Dark. Dark, we use Brieg, Penny, Dual Attacker, and Hala. So that one is also Brieg. I guess this just happens to be like... This rotation happened to have the important ones, I think, which is Earth and Light. But yeah, that's it for this rotation. Expedition still has some issues, I think. Mainly being that you just lose out on so many mod gems if you try to farm hunts on the non-expedition rotations. Hopefully they find some way to fix that soon.
마지막 한 발까지 포기하지 않을 거야.
무의미한 가락을 거듭할수록 네 가치는 사라질 뿐이다.
내가 있으니까 예전처럼 강하진 않아. 저리 가세요.
정령왕실 힘은 주제 모르는 자의 자만은 가슴이
만만히 보고 대가야. 이 일격에 내 의지를 쏟아붓겠어.
새 노래를 들어주세요. 신사숙녀 여러분.
어설픈 어리석은 탐욕을 위해 베풀 차림이다. 진심을 다해야 이겠지. 혀! 무의미한 가락을 거듭할수록 네 가치는 사라질 뿐이다.
성능 테스트 좀 해볼까?
우리가
성가신이 비켜. 이 작은 화살 끝이 전부 꿰뚫을 때까지.
저리 가세요.
혀!
안 봐줄 거야.
새 노래를 들어주세요. 신사숙녀 여러분.
마지막 한 발까지 포기하지 않을 거야.